Thank you to Comcast for having all of us here. We're really excited to learn more about the latest technology that we can use to help keep our families safe and get the great benefit out of technology. And thank you all for joining us for this conversation.
Yes, I echo that. Thank you both to Comcast and also to all of you who are here to tell us your stories about your children and yourselves and how you try to manage this new world that we're living in. And I wonder if you could just start off by reflecting a little bit on what your concerns are about your children as it relates to internet use and all the devices that are so much a part of our lives today. And I will say, as a grandmother of 5 kids ages 10 to 15, I worry a lot about these devices and how they've kind of taken over our lives. But just think specifically, what is it that concerns you, if you have concerns, about your children's use of devices and what you think the consequences might be of some of the things they're encountering these days?
Well, I guess my biggest concern now, my kids are 13 and 15, and I don't have as much control over what they're viewing. And since they have to use internet for school and they have laptops, they're always on them. So it's hard to know how they're using it, and particularly my son, who I think wastes a lot of time when he should be doing his homework. So I think that now is my biggest challenge, is that I want to respect their privacy, yet I don't have control over it. It feels like I don't as much.
And as they get older like that is really an issue, because we have to realize they're going to be
and
adults
trust them.
soon, and we have to trust and respect their privacy.
Right, and give them the tools to have more self-discipline, because they're not going to be in your house for that much longer.
Well, it's that balance of not being a helicopter mom.
Right.
And wanting to show your kids that you trust them, but also knowing that they have to earn that trust. And how do you monitor what they're doing when you're not there?
Yeah.
And I don't really want to be standing over
No,
their
I don't
shoulder.
either. And
I have other things to do.
And I think they're, smart enough to know that, but it's more of time management. So.
I worry about that for, my kids are a little bit younger, so I worry about that in the future. Right now I'm focusing on, I worry about just monitoring the amount of time they're on the internet or an app or a game or whatever they're doing. That's my biggest concern, is because as a mom, you get busy and your kids are playing, and all of a sudden, an hour's gone by, and you're like, oh my gosh, my kids are still on that device. And so for me, in this season of my life, that's what I struggle with.
That happens with us adults too. I sit down and I think I'm going to be on for 15 minutes, and I look at my watch, and I look at my screen more likely, and it's been an hour. So it does start early.
Yeah.
So my concern is that my daughter is 4 years old, and it seems that she has been obsessed with the YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a spoiled girl, and always wanted to get something by pretending, crying, and rubbing her eyes, and her parents would show up and just give her whatever she wants. So and she got all the fancy stuff like the beautiful vanity and the sparkling makeup, case. It's all the eyeshadow and the lipstick, lip gloss. I was like, when I was watching this video, I was like, no, I'm kind of afraid that she would pick up the way that girl acts. So, but on the other hand, there's a voice in my head like, no way. Watching the video doesn't mean she will act that way. So it's always very conflicting. Should I allow her to see that kind of videos, or no, I just have the 100% control over the content you are watching. So it's hard to kind of adjust between those two choices. What should I do, right?
Well, and YouTube is such a new, it wasn't around when we were growing up, and even I find myself, I call it the YouTube hole, where you get sucked in, and it has all the little videos on the side, and some of the videos, it's like, why am I watching this? It's like not relevant to anything. But it is really hard, and I see with my kids too that they, these YouTube like they're celebrities. My kids will be talking about these people like they know them, and I'm like, who is that? Oh, it's a YouTuber. I mean, it is a lot of the behavior and kind of materialistic ways that a lot of these YouTubers kind of model is not necessarily an example we might want for our children. So it is a tough thing to.
Well, and it seems to be a replacement for the younger kids to shows.
Yeah.
Like they watch YouTube rather than like PBS shows or.
Kids play with toys.
Yeah, it is. And opening up this new toy and
The
yeah,
unboxing,
it's
or
odd
like
to
the
me.
unpackaging of a toy. It's like
Yeah.
the wildest thing. Like,
Right.
People watch people open boxes.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes asking kids what they think about the values that they're seeing. It's a little early with a 4-year-old to have that conversation, but you can start introducing it. What do you think this girl is really like? And, how do you think her friends feel about her? Or is that the kind of person you would want to be? Are there other things you might want to do instead? But I think as kids get older, especially, we have to gradually take ourselves out of that role of always being the ones to tell them what's good and what's not. There's a time and a place for that for sure, but to really engage kids in reflecting on it themselves. And what kind of person do you want to be? And how do you want other people to look at you? Those are really important conversations, and they start early.
Now she just wants to be Elsa, and she likes to learn skating because she can go to North Mountain to find Elsa. That's her dream, the biggest dream, so
I think
far.
she shares that with a lot of 4-year-old girls, but learn to skate, that's a good thing. Get out and be outdoors and have some physical activity and get off of YouTube for 5 minutes.
She has a nickname for Elsa, Elsie. She said, I'm Elsie, I'm Elsa's sister, Elsie. Big fan of.
That's great for creativity. Yeah, that's something you want to see.
Yeah, right.
Elizabeth, I think you were starting to say something.
Oh, I was just thinking like, as a parent, how do I model like how much time I spend on my phone and my laptop? Because sometimes my daughter would say, "Hey, Mom, you are watching your phone. How about I go look at my iPad?" I'm like, Mommy really using the phone as a communication tool because I need to get to somewhere. But my phone is kind of indeed my communication tool, but I'm on it. But my daughter watching me and using devices all day long. How do I model the behavior to her?
I bet you know the answer to that yourself, because we're all tempted to just be on our devices all the time, but can we step back and say, how much of my time do I really want to be doing this? And if I'm doing this all the time when I'm with my children, what is that saying to them about how important my phone is versus how important they are to me? And I say that to you not with any judgment, because I find myself doing this when my grandkids are with me sometimes too. But I've had to really set some rules for myself about times when I just absolutely turn it off. I put my phone on airplane mode so I can still, glance at it to see what time it is, or I use an alarm on my phone to tell me when it's time to move on to another thing. But I've really had to be very intentional about that. Otherwise, it's just there and it's so easy to go to it all the time.
We actually did a survey with a couple of years ago as it relates to internet use, and more than half of the kids surveyed said they feel that their parents spend more time than they should on their devices as well. So it relates to exactly what you're sharing.
Well, what do you think the consequences of all of that time on the phone? I mean, both for us as parents and for our kids and for our families.
Not being present when your kid is telling you the big story, and then you are on the phone and checking other stuff. So I think kids, they don't say that a lot often, but they can feel that you are not focusing on them. So they might get disappointed. They would say, "Mommy, why don't you listen to me?" My kids have told to me several times, because I feel like all of a sudden I put down my phone, I feel the disappointment. So I need to reconnect.
Yeah. Well, I've had that experience too, where I'm my kids are telling me a story and then I get sidetracked by something and I realize like I've missed half of what they've said, and you know, I don't feel great about that as a mom. So it's something I'm really trying to work on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think I worry about the instant gratification piece. I feel like, you know, we used to race off the bus to get home for Little House on the Prairie at 4 p.m. and now everything is anytime, anywhere. You know, I see it with all of us. You know, the kids, the adults, we're with friends and we're out to dinner and we're discussing some topic and, you know, everybody's looking on their phones quick to find the answer to it. And, you know, I see that, I see a shorter temper with my son, and I think a lot of it is he just expects everything right now and at this moment, and I think that's very worrisome, troublesome.
I think you've really nailed something that's hugely important, and I don't think we've begun to understand how we're conditioning kids from the earliest ages to have that instant gratification, to have everything moving really fast. You know, it's this constant level of stimulation. And I do think educators and psychologists and a lot of people who are studying children, as I did in my career at the University of Minnesota, you know, are seeing that this really is having serious consequences for kids' ability to tolerate frustration, for their quickness to become angry and act on that anger. They've been taught, you know, how to fire guns at characters. I mean, especially among the young males, there's so much video game use, which doesn't necessarily turn a person violent. That, you know, that's been speculated about, but I don't think there's really evidence that will turn a young child into a violent person. But it certainly may desensitize them, and there's evidence to that effect. And it does, I think, condition them to really act quickly and often in anger. So I'm very, very worried about that, both in terms of what I see in the research emerging and also just what I see among young people and among drivers on the roads. A lot of the, you know, younger adults I see on the roads, I think, are that first generation who's grown up with this constant instant gratification and expecting just to get something right here, right now.
My
That's
kids,
my
I worry
speech.
too. Yeah, that's a good point. My kids, I worry about when they're on their devices, they want to be away from. Not necessarily they want to be, but that's their inclination is to go up to their room with their phone or their iPad with their phone. And I always say, if you want to be on your phone, that's fine, or your iPad for a while, but you need to be around people. You need to be down here. So part of it's for the monitoring, but also it's like, I feel like it's kind of that interaction. They're kind of losing that interaction with others and that social aspect.
Well, I've observed when I see my kids with their friends, I mean, you know, whether it's a gathering, you see all these kids sitting on a couch together and they're all looking at their phone. And I feel really sad because I think they're missing out. I mean, when we were younger, we were like, you know, scheming to build something or like developing some new game and running around outside, and I really worry about how sedentary kids are.
And the imagination, I feel like, is going away too more so because they're just they don't have that alone time where they don't have something to occupy their attention all the time, so they're not really doing that creative playing as much.
And I think you mentioned it before, we were talking before you guys arrived. We're the first generation of parents to have to parent in a social media world, in a technology world. So it's almost like we're flying the plane while we're trying to build it.
Yeah,
and we're trying to learn how we balance it as well as how our kids balance it. And sometimes it's difficult. We don't always make the right choices or set the right stage, but you know, we're trying as best we can, and we're trying to learn. I try to stay up on top of what are all the social media sites? What are all these apps? What does that mean? So that I understand what they're looking at as well.
It's like an addiction for some kids too, you know.
Oh, I think it definitely
Yeah.
meets the level of addiction.
Yeah.
Not only for kids,
Well, and for adults,
No,
yeah.
really, you know,
Yeah.
for our society.
Well, I'm curious, you were talking about not letting the kids go to their rooms with their phones, and I think that's a great policy. What other rules do you all have for internet use for your children, or possibly as a family? Do any of you have rules that kind of apply to the adults in the house too?
I do. So before my daughter was 3 years old, she did not have any screen time. So because I used to be a teacher and I'm kind of really strict on that, and I did see very good results. So my daughter, she's very good at imagining, and she always telling me the story. She made up stories with her dad. And now, so once she turned 3, I started to let her to watch the shows or use Google, because there is a benefit using the social media, using the internet. She can get knowledge, and then if we're looking at when is the next the eclipse, and she can Google that, she can use that device to get information. So she knows how to use research. That's really good. So that's the benefit. But I know, so I told her she now is 6, and I said 30 minutes a day. That's her limit. So 30 minutes a day. She can break it up like 10 minutes at a time, and even 5 minutes. But the cumulative per day, that's 30 minutes. So a day. However, progressively, how do I kind of phase it? How do I increase? And then do I have new ways? Is there any new ways I can use? Because it's keep changing. Yeah. So I know it's keep changing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't just say 30 minutes forever. I understand that. So that's not going to be forever solution.
But that's a good start.
Yeah.
And,
For young
and
kids,
understanding you have to adjust as her development changes, but also that you have to hold a line so that it doesn't take over her life. That's good thinking.
Yeah, still learning.
Yeah.
What's the next? What's next?
Who else? Yeah.
I think your daughter is lucky because we have made it very clear that in our household my children would only allow the screen time on the weekend, starting Friday afternoon. Once they get home from school, they would know, they would turn on the TV. No screen time Monday to Thursday. That's because the school days.
How is that working?
Yeah, they know, they have the idea. So I understand deeply this is not the time you can watch TV. And by the way, the screen time we count TV, iPad, whatever devices they are on. Yeah.
Do you set perimeters for the weekend, or is it kind of whatever they want to do?
I would say if they are watching a movie 2 hours at maximum, but it's on the video game, I would say 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I would set the timer, and when the timer off, I said go outside, do something else, walk around, and because outdoor sports would be doing good to your vision health. Yeah.
I love how both of you have such clear and rules, and that you really are enforcing them. That's always a challenge for me because it's that as they get older, it's hard to sort out what's the when they're doing schoolwork on the computer versus social stuff. And I mean, it feels like it's a wild world out there. I'm curious if any of you with older kids have.
Well, we had a rule for my son because he liked playing PlayStation that he could only play on the weekends, same thing. And towards the end of last year, I got frustrated and said, I would be fine with you playing PlayStation during the week if you got everything done, because he would be up doing his homework till 11 o'clock at night, and I am not getting enough sleep. So yesterday, actually, he said, because school started, and he said, you said to me, of course he remembers it, that if I get all my homework done, I can play PlayStation during the week. And I said, that's right, you can. So he not only did his homework for today, but for the next day too, and then played. And then he was in bed 2 hours earlier than he normally is. So I think a lot of it is time management that you want to teach your kids, because you're not going to be with them in college, and you're not going to be there to monitor.
Right.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So that might last 2 weeks, and then, back to arguing. But
well, keep us posted.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that. I think you really hit the nail on the head there as far as, our role as parents is to kind of work ourselves out of a job and teach our children so that when we're not there, they figure it out. And with now having kids who are in 8th grade and high school, I'm not around them all the time, and so I think a lot of that kind of self-regulation has to be in place by that point.
Whereas my daughter prefers to get her homework done right away, but she is not playing PlayStation. She wants to watch cooking videos and
Yeah.
YouTube, which is also which is also a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually look at what they're using it for. Like
Yeah.
if there's something, obviously video games are usually just kind of not much educational happening there. But if we're using them as a family to play games, like there are these survey games that they learned about in school, and they're it's almost like a Family Feud type game or something. So if they're using them and we're all using them together for a game or obviously for schoolwork, then I don't count that time as much as their something like a video game or watching YouTube videos. So it kind of depends on the application they're using it for and how much time I give them for each type of use.
Because it does get more challenging. Yeah.
It does.
The latest research studies of time use among kids are showing that 8 to 12-year-olds are using devices for non-school related activities more than 40 hours a week on average. That's a full-time job, you know. And the 12 to 18-year-olds or 13 to 18-year-olds are using devices not for school activities, this is outside of school requirements, more than 60 hours a week. So, that is staggering to me. And that says there are a lot of people out there who are not setting limits and, maybe aren't even thinking about this or about how you would go about doing it. And I do think it's a very nuanced thing as kids get older. But that you mentioned the sleep thing, and a lot of kids are not getting enough sleep. That's a serious problem for their health, for their learning, and their moods. Mental health is so affected by sleep deprivation, and so really getting them to reflect on that themselves and think about how they feel when that alarm goes off in the morning, and what can they back up and do differently in the evening. And you hit on that, Faye. I think that's a good example, but lots of other.
I have to agree with you on that for sure, Marty. I have a daughter that's 10, and she is an early riser. I usually lay with her, for a little bit at night and talk about her day and stuff like that. And the other night I was laying with her and I was looking at her iPad, and it keeps track of the hours in which she was on it, how long, if it was for entertainment, yada yada. And I looked and it tracks what time of day. Well, she's been waking up at like 6 a.m. to get on this, and I had no idea that she was on the iPad because we're all sleeping, and she wakes up secretly and gets on it, and she's off of it by the time I wake up, and I'm like, well, now you're busted. What are you gonna do? So now I have to take it away, hide it so that she can't find it, and turn off the Alexa so she can't set an alarm to get up to use her device.
We're going to talk in a few minutes too with our Comcast teammates here about the innovations and how to really monitor, because I think you're hitting on something that lots of parents are just kind of shocked when they find out what's really going on that they weren't aware of. Yeah. And we'll get to that in just a few minutes.
We hide our devices in places they have hard time reaching. Really tall, because they have ways. They always figure out where they are, So.
Yeah, I know a couple boys in these two households who are about 6 feet, 6 feet tall, so they can hide things where we can't reach.
Hide in the dishwasher.
My son has mastered the step stool. He knows all the kitchen hiding spots, so that won't last.
One of the things that that we haven't touched on, maybe because more of you have boys in that school age and adolescent period than girls, but the way girls use devices is, to a large extent, fairly different from the way boys do, and the social media plays such a huge role in that, and we're seeing a lot of evidence of high anxiety and even depression among adolescent girls, either because they're being teased or ridiculed or rejected, ghosted on social media, or because they're seeing images, just like a lot of moms are, and grandmas even, of people's perfect lives, and then feeling bad because they don't measure up. People are so selective about what goes on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and so on. I wonder if any of you have experiences with that, either with daughters who are old enough to be involved in that, or even in your own lives as parents. Does that enter into your world?
I talk about that a lot with my daughter, because she'll be doing things and it's like, oh, I only got so many likes. And like, if you're having fun, who cares how many likes you have? Are you enjoying making this TikTok video? Yes, okay, well then, you know, doesn't matter. That's not the important part. And also the filters on Snapchat, and she'll say things like, oh, you know, that I like that girl's hair, you know, this and that. And then I show her right there. I'm like, well, look at what happens when you put this filter on. That is not her real hair. That is not her real anything, pretty much. It's like a mask of all, and it makes her look flawless. And so
Where can I get that filter and
Yeah.
carry it around with me
At
in
her
life?
age, at her age, she doesn't, I don't know if she realizes what's happening, like what the actual filter is
Yeah.
doing. So it's, you know, educating her on what really is happening there and what that how you're getting to that final result of the filtered face and everything else.
Well, and I also think girls and boys, it's hard because they find out what parties they're missing. I mean, when we were younger, we might have found out we were missing a party, but you didn't actually see it.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard.
I've been struggling with the same thing with my daughter. So she's like, Mom, can I have Snapchat? She's 10. And I'm like, no, I mean, you can't. Some of her friends have it, some of them don't. For our family, it's a personal choice that she doesn't have it. I have it on my phone, and I use it, and I have some of her friends that have friended me or on Snapchat, and so I can see the videos that they post. I don't show my daughter, but I think about it in the back of my head that if she had Snapchat, she would see, you know, her friends dancing around, and there's been multiple times where I'm like, I watch it and I forget I saw it, because I'm like, if she saw this, it would break her little heart, and I worry about those days ahead. So the longer I can hold out on that, the better.
Well, what kinds of resources or tools would help you manage things? I mean, some of you are really thinking hard. I would say all of you are thinking hard about these issues, but some of you have made some really concrete decisions about how to set limits with the younger children. I'm hearing many of you say that it gets harder as the kids get older and their lives get more complex, and you feel like you're losing a lot of control. But are there things that would really help you do that?
We live in a neighborhood with a lot of kids and a lot of like-minded parents. And one of the best things we found is that all the parents are very much go outside. They're home from school, go outside and play. And so we live on a park, and it's just, I couldn't be happier. And I think a lot of limits on iPads and electronics after school. I think a fair amount of us let them do it for a while in the morning. We have a really late starting school. Mornings can get really long when they're up early. But I think that for us has helped the most. You know, it's not always the case.
And that sense of community and having some common values and community rules or guidelines, if you will. There's a wealth of research over the decades that has shown how powerful that is, particularly as kids become adolescents. It adds so much to the positive influence of just having parents who do those things, but it's just a multiplying factor if you can affiliate with it. You know, sometimes it happens naturally in a neighborhood, and that's great. But if that doesn't happen in your neighborhood, how can people through the schools or faith communities pull together and come up with some common values and really then let the children know, you know, that we're all together in this because we really care about you and we care how you turn out. We want you to be healthy and happy and living a good life. So doing that collectively is just very, very powerful. Whether you do it that intentionally and formally as I just described, and sometimes for adolescents that becomes very important. You know, we're also going to tell other parents if we see you doing something really harmful. We are going to tell. We're going to be tattletales because we care about you. And so there's some really good resources on that. We have some of those resources on Mom Enough to help parents really come up with that kind of idea. But I just love what you describe. It also relates to the fact that a lot of times parents want kids to come home and immediately do their homework. Margaret likes to do that. That's her wish, you said, and that's great. And some kids, that's the best way to do it. Other kids do so much better if they can go run around outside first, and then they can concentrate. And so I like to think about how we can help our kids figure that out for themselves. what allows me to concentrate at my best when I do my homework. And it might be right after they get home, or it might be after an hour of, as Aaron's son said when he was younger, he said, I need to get the wild out before I concentrate. And I thought, that's just a beautiful image. So he'd go out and just, he really can run wild. But thinking about those kinds of things that work for kids.
Well, I would. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we do that a lot as parents too, is make sure that we're staying connected. And I'm very honest with my son to say, we all know kind of what's going on. We all talk to one another. And once he got on some of the social media sites, the expectation was that you follow me, I follow you. So if you're gonna be on Instagram, I'm gonna follow you. And a lot of what we share too is, especially as your children get older, how much, if you're looking to go to a college, colleges pay attention to that. Any of the coaches for any sports or clubs, anything that you're involved in, they will tell you, we are watching social media to see kind of what you're liking, what you're doing, and that can hinder, as you look to continue to advance. And so we're very honest with that, but we try to be partners with other parents to try to help our kids get steered in the right direction.
Well, it's easier for the kids too if they are kind of knowing that their friends are having similar rules at home. And so, it's not like, well, Johnny gets to do this. If all the parents are communicating and on the same page, at least among your community or your group of peers and friends, that's so much less stress for the kids, because it's no longer about, keeping up with so-and-so, and they know that this is the way we do it.
Well, did you have other thoughts about the resources and tools that would help you? And if not, I think we have some people here who can show us some, tell us about some. Ready to learn? Yeah.
And I'm really pleased to say Comcast has very much over the last several years listened to parents and what kind of concerns they have and how we can help provide you a resource to help manage your kids and your families, quite frankly, internet use. We know Wi-Fi, quite frankly, is at the heart of every home. We do it for work, for schoolwork, medical bills, applying for jobs, you name it. And right now, on average, they're about, actually, I think in the next year, they're predicting that each person has 13 connected devices to their Wi-Fi in their home. So you think about a family of 4, that's nearly 50 devices. And when you think about the Internet of Things, the Alexas of the world, and your smart TVs and your smart refrigerator, all of that is powered by the Wi-Fi. And so what we did a couple of years ago as a technology company is introduced a new platform called Xfinity XFi. And that platform allows you to truly control and manage your household network. You know who's on it, what devices are connected to it, the usage of each of it, and we have continued to innovate that tool so that we are providing resources to families and parents so that we can help combat some of the very same things that you ladies talked about today. So Tom Henschel here is going to walk you through the app, how it's used. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. We'll chime in with a few other cool things. But take it away, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. First and foremost, XFi is designed to be easy to use. Traditionally, setting up your Wi-Fi, security, antivirus, all that stuff has really been complicated, and it's required really technically savvy users to try to figure out how to do it. So XFi is designed from the start to be really simple. So on the interface here, we've just got a couple different menus to go through. First and foremost, what do most people forget? Their Wi-Fi username and password. So right away in this app, I can see my Wi-Fi username. I'm a tech dork, so I'm gonna have a lot of things in here that are kind of nerdy. But I've got my Wi-Fi username as Electron, and then I can hit show password to show that. I can also edit the name right from here. We have something that we introduced called protective browsing. Oops, let me go back here. And protective browsing is, we've partnered with several different companies to enable a simple to use feature. You just toggle it on, and this is gonna help avoid some of those malware sites, the sites with all the pop-ups that jump up on your browser and kind of ruin your experience. So this is gonna help block those and make sure that you are accessing sites that are safe for your computer, first of all. Then we get into the devices. So here's my gateway. It's online. I also have some of these X-Fi pods, which you can learn about later, but they boost your Wi-Fi in your house. And what I'm going to actually focus on, though, here is the people. So under the people, you can create different profiles for different family members in your house. And I'll actually go back to the overview, and it'll show the most active family members in the house over a 24-hour period. So here I have my smart home devices, so I have a bunch of cameras and a doorbell. And then I also have myself, my wife, and my kids. And so you can start to see, okay, who's using the most data in the house, who's the most active. So my smart home, I have cameras running, so it's actually a good sign that those are using a lot, and my kids are on the lower side. So if I hit all profiles here, I can monitor my guests. So if people come over to my house and jump on my Wi-Fi, I can see what they're doing. And when I say see what they're doing, it's not like Big Brother. I can't monitor their screens or anything. But what I can do is control or limit access to my internet from those people. So here are my kids, and they each have an iPad that, well, they're mine, but I kind of say they're the kids because really they're the ones that are using them most of the time. So what I can do from here is I can hit pause all. So let's say it's dinner time. I can hit this button, and both iPads can be paused. I can do a time limit, so 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, or until I unpause. So we'll just say until I unpause. I hit apply, and through the cloud, this is happening in real time. So if my kids were home right now, the internet would now be shut off on those iPads. So really easy to do. So I'm gonna actually just unpause for the purpose of showing you the next thing here. So the other thing that we can do here is I can see active time, and some of you were talking about that. So as you were saying that, I was smiling because we have something great for that. So here I can see the active time. Today, 30 minutes of use on the iPad, and I set a limit on this device of 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I can go in and change that. I can also see network activity, and that's more if you're really worried about how much data use is occurring, but you can see hours of activity as well. So on here, it's kind of a nice indicator. Someone mentioned their child waking up at 6 a.m. My son's done the same thing. I caught him at like 5 a.m. on his iPad, on the couch, not in bed. And so here you can start to see, okay, when are things happening in the house, and have an idea of exactly what's going on. So here I can do some settings. So with the active time limit, I can go in here and I can say during weekdays, I can give 2 hours and 30 minutes, or I can go all the way up to 12 hours of use per day. And then I can also check on the weekends. So for some of you, if you have rules during the week and then the weekend's treated a little different, you can differentiate that in here. Now the way I have it set up right now, when they reach this limit, it will actually send me a notification that says they have reached their time limit for the day. If I want it to shut the internet off for them, I can just check this box and hit apply. And now, after they reach that time limit, it'll notify me as well as shut their device off. So again, it gives you kind of that monitoring ability to know exactly how long they've been on it without having to mess around with security settings or anything like that. We also have a bedtime mode. And actually, last night, I got caught with this. So I had a bowl of cereal at like midnight. I can't fall asleep. So grab the iPad. The internet's not working. Oh yeah, I locked them out and I had to go in the app and disable it. So here's bedtime mode. I can select school nights, and then again, the same type of slider here. So my kids go to bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock, so I can actually have the internet disabled completely between those overnight hours. So here I can have it between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., and then I can do it on the weekend as well and set, okay, the weekend I'll be a little nicer and we'll say 10 o'clock. I hit apply. Now at night, the internet will be off for these devices unless I go in and manually intervene. The other thing that we have too is a parental control feature. What I really like about this, and a lot of you mentioned YouTube, and my kids, it's funny you're talking about Ryan's toy review. Anybody heard of Ryan? This kid, boy, he's a millionaire at 10 or something. But what's nice about this is we can enable this safe search. So if they are searching YouTube, they're going to get only search results that are safe. And we have a team of people that kind of determine what safe is. So you don't have to go in and put individual search terms or try to figure out, okay, what website, Jill was talking about blocking, okay, what bad sites can I block? And you have to think of them all. Well, there's a million bad sites out there, right? So with this safe search, this will limit their YouTube results to show things that are kid-friendly, kid-safe, so that they're not getting into videos that might be, you know, objectionable. So I can just toggle this on. This will also control their Google searches as well to make sure that they're getting friendly results rather than things they shouldn't be seeing. So on this screen, we have the devices, and I have 20 connected devices. And if you scroll through, you start to realize how many devices are really in the house and all of the guests that have connected. And so I have like 40 or 50 devices here. It's a lot to keep track of. And so what's nice is that I can go ahead and throw these into categories. So for example, if I go to my kids here and hit assign a device, I can put their Nintendo Switch on to that rule and hit assign, and that is going to apply those same parental control rules to that Switch as their iPad, so that I don't have to think about, okay, which device did I turn it on with, which one has it, which one didn't. It makes it very, very easy. I get a text message every time a device joins, so I know that this isn't my device, and I can just hit a button and block it. So again, protecting your family, making sure that it's secure, and it's really easy to use. This is really simple. You sign in with one login, and you're signed in for good. So really, really simple.
We also introduced just last year an element to the X5 platform called Advanced Security. So while we have some of the protective browsing on, this is an extra layer of defense that we offer. So it's $2 extra a month for a customer. And what it does is it, again, scans all of your devices in the home, checking for any malicious viruses or threats. I have it. Just last week, it protected 5 of our devices against 185 threats. So it's just constantly behind the scenes. There's nothing I need to do. I just know that behind the scenes, it's working to protect us. And when you think about all the kids and their friends bringing different devices, it really helps monitor and protect your network.
Yeah.
Tom, how do you set it so that you and your wife are the only ones who can control all of these things?
Good question. So with Xfinity, we have logins that we issue. And so there's a primary login, and then you can create, is it 7 secondary accounts? So each family member could have an email address. Well, the primary account has access to control this, and you can limit those secondary accounts if you want to give them access or pull it back. So as long as you keep that login private, don't give that out to the kids, you're going to be in control, and there's no way that they can tap into this to try to unblock the settings. And it's funny you say that, because I remember when I was probably 10 or 11, my parents put this anti-surfing thing on there, and I just X'd right out of it, and I was on the internet, It was easy to get around, and so we've made sure that, and this is controlled in the cloud and at the device level. So on the wireless gateway, it's the software in that. So we're not installing, other software in the house that can be deleted or removed or worked around. So,
Because the kids know so much
more
than the grandparents, or maybe even the parents.
Yeah, and then that's the one of their challenges too is with how tech savvy kids are now, they are learning this stuff at a really rapid pace, and they will find those workarounds pretty easily. So I watch my kids on YouTube, and they click on a video, they're looking for a different one, but they know if they click on this video, they'll then find this other video, because they haven't figured out how to search yet. And it's just amazing that they have figured that stuff out. So they'll find a way around it if they can.
We
So
show what the front of the app looks like because I'm the only one in our household that has the XFi app on my phone, and so I'm the one that's managing and kind of controlling it. And I can pause my husband's devices if we struggle with some of the same things. We want to make sure that dinner time is sacred. Everybody put your devices away. We make sure in the evening hours when it's time for bed, everybody puts their device in the mudroom, and nobody's devices are in their room for the most part. So we try to set that, but I'm the one that has the app and controls it. So my son doesn't have it. So to Tom's point, we really have that full control. You can easily give access to your spouse or your significant other as well, but my son doesn't have the app to toggle and make those changes.
Well, this seems a whole lot better than the timer I put on our wireless router that you slot the things like the old school
oh, nice.
thing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, this is a lot better.
Yeah.
As far as the home installation goes for this, so if you already have, like, what is involved with what gets installed in your home? If you already have internet through Comcast,
Sure.
it's just
Yeah. So, and actually, let me just walk back here and I'll show you here. So basically, we want to make sure that you have one of these. This is our wireless gateway. We have two different models. So as long as you have one of our newer gateways, it'll work with XFi. If you don't have one of these, you can swap one out at one of our stores, totally free. There's no, there's no extra charges or anything for it. So, and this XFi is included with our internet service. So it's going to be, no cost to it at all. So it's not like there's going to be, more. Now, when the technician comes out, if you had our service installed, the technician would walk you through how to use this. Otherwise, if you have our service now, you can stop at one of our stores. We could cover that later today too, and help you get it installed. So
yeah, but like I'd mentioned earlier, for us it's a value add that we want to continue to provide to our customers. Internet is kind of the future of where a company continues to go. We're a technology company. We know how important being connected is, especially like I said, with all the Internet of Things devices, and we want to provide solutions to our customers that can help them manage it easier and make it really simple. We continue to innovate this platform. Some of the features that you see that we've talked about today didn't necessarily exist when the platform was first introduced, but we continue to ask our customers what would be beneficial. For instance, the active time alert. When we first introduced it, it was, you set the 2 hours and then you would get a notification and then you'd have to physically go into the app to then pause the devices. Now we've changed it where if you set that 2 hours, it automatically pauses. You don't, as a customer or parent, you don't need to go in and do anything. You just know that that's set based on your rules and it will take care of itself. So we continue to try to innovate and make it really simple for people to manage their household.
Does it give the user a 5-minute warning that that's coming or anything, or is it just abrupt? I'm thinking about, kids.
Good question.
Kids
So
needing
right
to be
now
warned.
it is abrupt.
Okay.
It's an abrupt, the internet stops working.
Okay.
There are some technical challenges with how to interject into YouTube or a browser to give a message.
Yeah.
Because when we first baited this, that was one of my concerns or questions was, hey, can we have a banner pop up? Well, that's challenging to do, but we're looking at ways to, somehow give an alert. And there could be a text message or some kind of email alert potentially in the future.
Yeah.
I suppose if it was actual homework going on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Well, and I had myself. I grabbed the iPad.
Just lost that
and
paper.
why isn't this
Exactly.
working? And I paused myself on accident. So, yeah.
And I would, we will continue to innovate the platform, and that's why these conversations for us are quite frankly very helpful. What would be helpful? What other modifications can we make to make the tool extremely robust?
Well, and it sounds like you can set different limits for each device.
Yes.
So the school computer, for example, could
Correct.
be set with a longer
Window.
window.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the nice thing about all the profiles is there's no limit on how many you want to create. So if you have 30 devices, you could create 30 profiles if you wanted. But we typically want to make it easier. So, I have, 5 profiles for my house, and that just makes it easy for me to and really it's just for the kids. You know, I'm not going to limit my wife, so maybe I should though. It's a good idea.
I'm interested in this,
Yeah.
I could really cause some damage on football Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking about the conversation families can have around this, and I'm just such a big believer in really talking to your kids, whatever their age is, about what you're doing to manage their lives and to help them learn to manage their own lives. And so I'm just thinking about setting this up and, you know, talking about why we're doing this. And internet use, the blue light in particular, really interferes with sleep, and so stopping an hour before bedtime would be something I would want to do to allow everybody, adults and kids, to calm down. I've kind of imposed that rule on myself because I, like you, Tom, I don't know, I sleep as well as I would like, but changing that in the evenings for me has really made a difference.
And we found, we you know, after we introduced the platform, we surveyed a bunch of customers and parents, and by far the pausing the device is the most popular feature of the platform. And the hours between 6 and 9 are the times that they're pausing the devices actually the most, because they do want that sacred time of family time, dinner time. And the kids are, you know, like I'd mentioned before, telling the parents, hey, you're on your device too much as well. So you can, as a family, set all the devices to say, you know, between 5 and 6, that's going to be our sacred family time, and all of the devices are off on the internet.
Yeah, and teaching your kids a really important value there.
Yeah.